Hey everybody, welcome. I'm Daniel Garza, and this is Put It Together Podcast Conversations, a new series that I'm starting here on the Put It Together Podcast show. In continuing with the live beat shows that we usually do, but concentrating more on how to help not just me, but you guys, how to be better versions of you. If you've been following me, you know that I've been doing the Better You workshops on my page. You can check those out on Facebook, Better You workshops, and there's four episodes right now, but we'll have more coming up as we go along. I want to introduce Tommy Lee Kirby. I love that name. I always love that name. Tommy Lee Kirby and I are friends from Houston, and if you've been following Put It Together podcast, you know that he was on my show not too long ago, probably about a month ago, 2 months ago, something like that.
Yeah, a couple months.
If you have not heard his episode, it's super interesting. It's his life journey. If you are a follower of Put It Together podcast, you know that every episode is about people's journeys and how they overcome. Excellent story. Go listen to it. If you, I will put it at the end, the link, so you guys can go check it out.
Yeah.
Tommy Lee, how you doing, sir?
Good. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Yeah. Introduce yourself to these guys.
So yeah, as Daniel has mentioned, I'm life coach Tommy. I've been a life coach for a very long time, but professionally for about 5 years. And my focus is really self-love and self-empowerment. I like to focus on, communication, how we're communicating with ourselves and other people. So that's really my core focus, and then that usually leads to a lot of other things in people's lives.
Before we continue, we're in Los Angeles, in Sherman Oaks, but everybody wants to be a life coach. But I vouch for him because we talked the last time I was here, and he's got good stuff. But how did you get into the life coaching?
Well, kind of just it's an interesting question. I've always been, you have that friend that you go to for advice, and I've always been that friend, and I've always been that guy, and people say that I'm a good listener. So usually when people would ask me for advice, the advice I would give them would be helpful. So then I was like, why don't I help more people than just my friends? And so I started lending myself and putting myself out there. And seeing actual clients and seeing a lot of progress in their lives because of the tools that I could help them with and offer them. So,
cool.
Extremely rewarding, yeah.
Now, we're going to, let me get back in here because my computer was going slow. Today, we want to talk, like we said in the beginning, self-love, self-awareness, and there's a really technical word that we're going to get into. Neuro-Linguistics, is that correct?
Yes, Neuro-Linguistics.
Can you explain to the folks what that's about?
Yeah, Neuro-Linguistics is basically a really fancy way to say, it literally means language of the mind. And it basically, how is the mind talking to itself? Essentially, how are you talking to yourself?
And not in a crazy way.
Yeah, I mean, it could be crazy if it's helpful. I mean, we don't have to, but crazy doesn't be bad, but so it's just basically the way you're talking to yourself and really giving yourself positive feedback. My core component of life coaching is that, the way you're communicating with yourself and the relationship that you have with yourself, it starts with that neurolinguistics. It starts with that communication. Because the thing is, if I don't have a positive relationship with myself, it is virtually impossible for me to have a positive relationship with anyone else in my life. And that goes for friends, it goes for my wife, it could go for acquaintances at work. So it starts with me. I have to make sure that the conversations that I'm having with myself are positive and helpful and productive. So it's just very specific of how that helps.
There we go. Sorry, guys.
And we're back.
So we're talking about neurolinguistics. Can what other people tell you be blocked with what you tell yourself?
Absolutely. If we're talking about, let's say, I'll give a good example of something. an acquaintance of mine basically made a comment. I've been working out at the gym, and he noticed, and he said, it looks like the gym has been good to you. And while, in and of itself, that's just a comment people make. It's just, it's what I call a life script. A life script is something where, hey, how are you? I'm doing fine. How are you? It's just something you say. It's a natural thing. So I didn't address him, but it triggered.
There we go. Sorry about that, guys. We're going to try and make this work out. So you were at the gym.
Yeah.
And
well, I was, so an acquaintance had said, hey, what that does, it's kind of something separate, but what it does is it lends power to an external source. Because the truth is that the gym is just the gym. What I do at the gym is what... What I do at the gym is what creates the what he's seeing. It's also about eating and stuff like that. And but to answer your question specifically, if somebody...
We are going to hook up the Wi-Fi, so don't go away. That way we won't have these errors anymore. So hold on just a second, guys.
Well, I don't know. As of today, I don't know where I actually put the wireless password.
Okay, so we're going to keep going just to see what happens. Don't worry. We're going to... here you go, guys. Technical difficulties. Do not panic. We will make this work.
Yeah. When I was in college...
Hey, Rob.
Hey, guys.
Okay, so just kind of to reframe. So you are good to you. We're talking about the gym analogy. It's not that the things are good to you, is you're good to yourself, and that's what makes the difference.
Yeah, that's what creates the result, is that I took the action, I took the responsibility to go to the gym and eat healthy, and so that's what creates, that's what's good to me. The gym, again, is just the gym. The gym is neither good nor bad, it's just there. And so there are a lot of what I ask, how this applies to my clients, and what I ask people is, what are you lending control to outside of, is it your home, is it your car, whatever. It's, what are you lending control to? But going back to your question, if somebody tells you that you're weak, for example, if somebody says you're weak, you can disagree with that person by, again, using neuro-linguistics and saying, I'm strong.
Right.
This is super granular, but you want to avoid saying things like, I am not weak, because what your brain hears is I'm weak. It's really good at getting rid of the negatives. And a perfect example is, if you ever don't spill the milk, and then suddenly you spill the milk, or you're like, don't fall, and then suddenly you fall. It's because your brain has actually listened to the positive aspect of it's a survival instinct. So instead of saying I am not weak, you should say I am strong. So that's just a really specific, granular example of neuro-linguistics.
Well, that falls into the example that I've been giving you about for a long time now. I didn't like, or I prefer to say to people, I'm trying to say around there, I prefer to say to people, I look forward to seeing you, or I look forward to being there, or I look forward to, instead of saying, I can't wait to see you. Yeah. I can't wait to do that. So I don't know if you guys can tell the difference, but for me, just saying that, and maybe I don't know if this makes sense, but because I suffer from panic attacks that stop me from doing things, saying I look forward to it makes me want to do it more and helps me fight that anxiety. Does that make sense?
Exactly. I mean, it's a very specific example, and it's, like I said, it's super granular. But another example is basically, when you say, how many times you said, I have to go to work, or I have to do this, or I have to clean the house, or I have to go have dinner with my parents, something like that. You basically are giving yourself a negative situation where if you can realign your again, neuro-linguistic, if you can realign your conversation and say, I get to, when you change I have to I get to go to work, because there are people who can't work. There are people who don't have a job, and you get to go to work, and you get to do what you're doing. You have a home, you have a shelter, you get to clean that home and take care of it. So again, those are specific examples of how we're talking, how we're communicating. But the biggest takeaway of Neuro-Linguistics is it all comes down to two very simple yet very powerful words. And that's the word, and I mentioned before, it's the words I am. Whatever follows I am can really have the power to switch how one sees themselves. So again, if I go to the mirror, or if I'm in the car and I just get frustrated and I say, I'm so stupid, or I'm so weak, or I am whatever, your brain is going to process that. Your brain is going to listen to that, and your brain is going to create that, whatever you said. But if you are, I don't want to use the word tricking, but if you are really connecting and convicting your brain to think a different way, where I am strong, if you're in a situation where you thought you were weak, but you can instead say, I am stronger than this, I'm stronger than this situation is allowing me to be, your brain is going to start spinning its gears and figuring out ways on a subconscious level. I've seen clients do powerful things literally on a subconscious level to get to where it needs to be. But it all starts with the way you're talking to yourself.
For those of you joining us, we are talking to life coach Tommy, and today we're talking about self-awareness, self-love. Now, we already covered that the things that you are taught by your parents, you can't do this, you can't do that, you'll never, that you can overcome those. It takes some work, obviously.
It does.
I was going to go with another question. I kind of forgot it. I got caught up in listening to you.
Yeah.
It's easy to say, hey, when you're feeling negative, when you're feeling trapped, go to the positive. Is it that easy?
It is and it isn't.
Okay.
And that question is not, well, that answer isn't helpful, but I'm going to, and we got a comment from Tony. Change the thought, change the mind.
Yeah.
Beautifully spoken.
And by the way, if you have any questions along the transmission, we're going for 30 minutes, but we can stay longer. So if you have questions, please send them in.
Ask me questions. I can talk about this stuff all day long, but I really want to answer your questions. That's really why I wanted to be a part of this, is to answer your questions and really help you guys in any way that you feel you need. But it is and it isn't. And as far as changing the mentality, I want to give a personal example. As Daniel knows, outside of life coaching, I'm also an actor out here, and it's a very long story of how I got to actually conquer those things that I was taught as a child, that I will never make it as an actor.
Right,
like, you'll never make it, and it took me seeing Mario Lopez at Casa Olé in Houston. But I was able to conquer those negativity with Neuro-Linguistics.
Okay.
And it's basically, it starts with a simple thing, and this goes into sort of a goal-setting exercise that I do with my clients, which I won't go into, but you can go to my website, and it's all on there.
We'll have all the info in a minute, yeah.
To read that of goal setting. But the first thing it starts with is why. Why do you want to be an actor? But beneath that, you really, again, going back to Neuro-Linguistics and changing the mind, it's all about just accepting and confessing that the possibility, that it is possible.
Okay.
That's the first step. And when you can turn I can't into I can, you're getting in a positive direction, okay? Because again, this is sort of a platitude, but it's cliche, but it's a beautiful cliche. If you say that you can, or you say that you can't, you're right. And again, it's super cliche, but it falls into what we're talking about, because when you go from I can't to I could, now that's the first step.
Okay.
Very first step. And it's going to take a lot of communication. But then, and this is more for my advanced clients, we go from I can to I will. Because I will is even more powerful than I can. Because I can is a possibility. But if you start saying I will, then you can get more into the positive direction.
Now, what would we say to somebody if you're in a relationship, if you're in a household, if you're somewhere where there's a lot of negativity around you? Because I know people, and we've all been in this situation where we have a partner, or we have siblings, or our parents that continually, even as an adult, or continually tell you, you can't, or you won't, or you're dreaming, that's impossible, etc.
Yeah.
And I'm playing devil's advocate here.
Absolutely.
It is really hard sometimes to get just out of that, to take a deep breath and be able to survive it. Again, can a person can themselves
experiencing all of
that? Like, and I'm putting can in quotations.
Can you do this?
Yeah.
Well, the easy answer is absolutely. But here's the thing. When it comes to receiving all of this negative energy, because without going too much into my process as a life coach,
right.
Really, as a life coach, I'm kind of a detective, because I'm going to be asking my clients a lot of questions, because I got to figure out what's happening in their lives. Where's the source of the negativity? Is it internal? Is it external? If it's here's a might be surprising. If the negativity is external, it's actually easier for me to get them to a positive place than if the negativity is internal. So
can you explain that just a little bit?
Absolutely.
What the external to the
Absolutely. So I'll use your example of the external negativity. Let's say you have a partner, or you have a parent, or you have a social group that is consistently barraging you with negativity. We'll just call it that. And I call it negative energy, but we can just call it negativity. And then there's the internal stuff where, and again, the internal stuff is created from the external stuff. And we can go into biology and physiology and nature versus nurture, but it is my belief that we are born, without any sort of psychiatric illnesses. We're born mainly with a clean slate, and it is the nurturing that we receive that will create the inner negativity. So I try to decide which is stronger. Is it the external or the internal? And if it's the internal, then I can address that spot on, and we can go in that direction. But and I can. It's a healthy, beautiful battle that I love playing, because I usually win. But anyways, the external negativity. Here's the thing, and it's something that I've put in my life, and again, it's one of the many reasons why I'm here in Los Angeles as a professional actor and a life coach, is because I've always asked myself, wherever I endure negativity, I ask myself, is this relationship really bringing me value?
Okay.
And not from a like a capitalistic sense or a holistic sense. It's more, what value is this relationship bringing my life? And if I cannot, feasibly answer that question on a plus side, it's almost like, where you create the chart, the pros and cons and stuff like that. If I can't be honest with myself and really see any value in that relationship, then that relationship is cut. I have complete control. This is one thing that, again, going back to the gym example, my clients don't realize that they do have complete control of their lives. And the very, very, very first step is taking that responsibility that you do have control. We do have a question.
So Tony, hi Tony. Tony's asking, what about when a person says, I can't change, I was born this way? Or, I'm too old to change my ways?
Yeah, good question. Very good question. So, there is this ideology that, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. And it's essentially, it's an illusion. And it's again, I could go off on a whole philosophical discussion on sociology and how this that ideology has been created and how I kill it with my clients. The truth is, first, I'm too old to change the way I am. The easy answer is absolutely not. You're not too old. I always tell people.
I'll raise my hand. No, you're not.
Well, I always tell people, because people ask me, what if I failed or I failed at this? And what I ask them is like, are you still alive? And when they say, obviously, yes, I'm like, then you haven't failed yet because you still have time to do this.
But don't they say that, like, success is built out of failures? I mean,
absolutely,
and just to answer that part, I'm 48 years old, and I actually started my acting career in my late 30s and started my hosting in my 40s and stand-up comedy just last year at 48, 47. So no, you can definitely, I am, no, we promised at the beginning we're not going to tell you what you can or can't do. That was one of the rules today. But I'm an example that if it doesn't matter how old you are, if you just want to experience new things, you don't have to be like, I'm pretty sure that my career is not going to take me to like a Eddie Murphy type career and success, but who knows?
Wow. So now he's triggering the life coach in me, because
yes.
I would tell you it is possible.
Yeah, so, I mean, yes, but I dream of it. And as far as that dream takes me, then I'm good. Like I've given it a try, so I can change that.
Yeah.
So what about the other one about I was just born this way?
Yeah. So,
is there such a thing?
Well, I mean, again, going back to psychiatric illness, that's one thing. But I want to address one more thing before we move on to born this way. It's you're going to make a lot of mistakes in your life, and that's what you really should learn from. And my thing is that the failure comes only if you quit. And even if you quit, again, you're still alive. You haven't completely failed. So it's the people that quit, that walk away from what they were trying to achieve, that actually fail. Because whatever happens, again, this is kind of a side note, but what people have to realize when they want to achieve something great is that the universe will come in and say, okay, show me how bad you want this. So the universe is going to send all sorts of obstacles in your way. And if you let those obstacles stop you, the universe is basically say, oh, you didn't want it that bad, so okay. But if you keep going and you acknowledge that these are just challenges to test you, then you're good. And again, even if the challenge conquers you, you're still alive. You can get over it. You can get over that setback. All it is a setback.
And I sometimes hear that from people when I tell them that despite all my health issues that I've been through, I still try to do new things because I'm still alive and I can't just sit on my couch all day. Yeah. And if you guys know me, I don't just sit on my couch all day. That I have to at least attempt to do something. And if I make a mistake or if I think it's wrong, at least I tried it.
Well, and also sometimes the best thing that can happen to you is making a mistake, because then you learn. That's how, and your brain rewires itself. It's like, it's like touching a hot stove. It's like, oh, don't do that again, And then you move forward, and you're stronger and a better person because you made that mistake.
Right.
So, and going back to the first part, it does. I will admit that saying that I'm just born this way, it's a forfeit. It's basically, for just to be blunt, it's one of those things. Unless, like, of course, you're born, like if you're schizophrenic or if you have this severe, if you're clinically depressed, that if you need to be medicated, then that is what it is. That's there. There's nothing you can do. But I have not yet met someone who is just born hating the world, or who's born weak, because what happens, going back to the nature versus nurture thing, is that no one is really born one way. We're born a multitude of ways. There's so much in our genes. So again, saying I'm just born this way, one, is forfeiting. It's lending control to an external force, and it's also really simplifying. And again, I'm really blunt with my clients. I don't sugarcoat things. It's lazy. It's a lazy mentality, and I don't tolerate it with my clients. And basically, again, it's lending control to an external force, and it's basically saying that there's one way that you are, and it simplifies. Our mind, again, our brain because of our survival instinct, because of, primitive survival instincts where we had to simplify things and see patterns and stuff so that we could live and survive another day, that's ingrained in us. So we have to simplify something. And so we always try to break it down that it's one thing. I'm born this way. No, it's not. You're so much more complex and beautiful than that. Yeah. So basically my role as a life coach is to help people realize how complex and beautiful they are, and that it's not just one simple thing. There's not just one thing. You're not just born a certain way. It's just not true.
Because technically we're not one personality through all our lives. There are different, I mean, we go through different stages in our life where we are different people, from the time we were little to teenagers to young adults to full-on adults. I mean, there's a different progress, right? Yeah. There we go. We got people back.
Cool. You could go and look at the Sphinx's riddle. I don't know if you're, just to give a bizarre example, but the Sphinx's riddle is, what animal has 4 legs in the morning, 2 legs in the afternoon, and 3 legs in the evening? The answer is a human being. Because it crawls on 4 legs, walks on 2 legs, and then usually has a cane at the old age.
Interesting.
You just learn something.
I'm going to have to use that one.
Absolutely, we do change.
So I guess for people watching, I don't know where we are on time. I lost track of time.
It's 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock, okay. Yeah. So we're at the 30-minute mark about. So we're going to stay on for just a little bit longer. But basically, I guess the 2 pointers that we're giving right now is identify where that, I guess we call it negativity.
Yeah.
Identify where the negativity is coming from. Is it internal or external? If it's external, then you have to evaluate your relationships and what they're doing for you. But isn't that the hard part sometimes? Because you can't just break up with your mom. If you're married, it's not that easy to just say, well, I'm going to walk away from this because you're being negative. We might have touched on it, but can we again?
Yeah.
Like say for instance, we're in a relationship and I'm constantly being negative about your career choice or where you want to go in life. If we can't separate or break up, what can you do to stop the negative voices?
Yeah. So a couple things is, one, you actually can break up. You actually can divorce. You actually can separate yourself. A lot of people feel trapped. And this is I'm going to give you the easy answer first, and then I'll give you the difficult answer second. The easy answer, and I always warn when I see a client relationship, my relationship with my clients, when I see it going a certain direction, I basically sound the flag and I say, listen, I need to give you a warning. The biggest thing that I'm most successful at is when my clients see me, they usually end up quitting their job and breaking up. Those are the biggest things that they do, because I'm able to show them. And this is the on average thing that happens, because people don't make positive life choices. They haven't been taught how to make positive life choices until they see a life coach, usually. And so the first thing I look at is, how's their relationship going with their wife or significant other or their girlfriend. And I also look at how they're doing at their job. And usually when they quit their job and they find something else and they're pursuing their passion, their life is so much better. And they can't believe they wasted, 7 years at the job that they had. And again, it's almost tragic that a relationship has to end for someone to be a better person. But that's my goal. I'm on the side of the clients, and that's my interest. And so I will talk to them about that. So the easy answer is cut the negativity, break from the relationship. And again, while you can't break up with your mom, you do have control over how much you interact with your mom. She'll probably blow up your phone, something like that. But you have control over how much you're interacting with them. And also, this is a nice segue into the difficult answer, you have control of how you're communicating with that person.
Good.
So when I hear about, my significant other is so negative, my mom is so negative, my friends are so negative, first thing is, how do you feel? How do you feel about yourself? And that we start the conversation there, because if I can get them on their side, then we can attack the negativity. So I get them on their side first. Once we've got that happening, then we go in, okay, now that I've got you on your side, have you told your significant other that their negativity is damaging their relationship?
Got it.
Because 9.5 times out of 10, that conversation hasn't happened.
Never happened. So for those of you who are just joining us, we had to cut us off. Honestly, what happens is I have this app that tells me that I need to drink water because I forget to drink water, and it cut us off. So for those of you that are joining us now, I'm with life coach Tommy, a good friend of mine. We're talking today about self-love and self-awareness and neuro-linguistics. For those of you that don't know that, I'm going to put these together and you can go back. Can you just tell them really quick what neuro-linguistics is again?
Yeah, it's a fancy way to say, how you're talking to yourself, the language you're using to talk with yourself.
So, and some of the things that we've determined so far is talking to yourself. If the negative things that are coming towards you, the negative energy that's coming towards you, is that internal? Are you saying it to yourself, or is it external from somebody else? And we've determined that the external is sometimes easier to get rid of than the internal, because you just said it here, because maybe you're not on your side. If you're not supporting yourself, then why should other people, right? You need to, isn't that also important to teach other people how to speak to you?
Yeah. I mean, exactly. I mean, it's now, again, using my own personal example, it's now gotten to the point, I have no one telling me that I cannot be a successful actor. I have no one telling me that. In fact, now, because of the way I communicate with myself and because of the way I express myself and carry myself, people are actually supportive and asking, "Hey, how's it going? What's the acting gig? What's going on? Or have you been on something?" They're actually a piqued curiosity into what I'm doing with my life. And the people who told me that I couldn't and were consistent in that communication are no longer part of my life. Because it's not helpful to me.
Does it matter also who you share the information with, as you said earlier? Like if I know that you're not going to be supportive or you're not going to be encouraging in any way, I don't need to share my dreams or my goals with you.
Yeah, I mean, there's something to be said about, again, who you're communicating with. For me, and when I'm working with my clients, I usually, if I cannot tell somebody something, or if I feel like that person may not be as supportive as I would like them to be, they're probably not going to be a part of my life. So, if you find yourself, again, this is really granular, but if you find yourself censoring the sort of conversation you're having with someone, maybe, again, this is a really specific example, but, let's say you have a friend and you know that if you start talking about your successes, they're going to get jealous and it's going to depress them. You really got to think about that relationship, because you should be, again, and this is the biggest challenge, because so many people keep negativity in their lives. And the biggest challenge of helping someone become a better person is showing them the negative energy that is there in their lives. And I ask my clients, what value is that relationship bringing to you? Is it helping you to keep that, I can't say this because they're going to be jealous. So is that helping you? Or would you rather be having a conversation with somebody who's going to share in your celebration of your successes and then talk about their successes? And here's the biggest thing. It is so easy to be negative.
Yeah.
It is so easy.
I've always said that, yes.
It is so addictive. And the reason why it's so easy is because, again, it's, this is a lengthy philosophical discussion, and you can watch a video or read a blog about it that I've done on my website. But you've got a cultural thing happening where the world sucks. That's the cultural thing. You also have a internal psychological thing, survival instinct. You're always on alert. You're always on alert. You're always in danger. And it's just ingrained in us. So if you become aware of that and you know that that's happening, then you can change it and evolve. Because that's the biggest thing, is that people aren't evolving into the positive beings that they can be.
So you see, if you're listening, again, if you're just joining us, I'm with life coach Tommy. This is Putting Together Podcast Conversations, just a continuation of the podcast. And we're talking about self-love and self-awareness. And to be self-aware of what's going on inside of you will open up to self-loving yourself. That start, and some of the pointers that we've gone through today are determining whether the information that you're receiving, positive or negative, is it coming from inside or outside sources. And it's easier to get rid of the outside than it is the inside. But once you do get rid of the inside negative energy or negative voices, then you have yourself on your own side. Then you're cheering yourself on to move forward. And if you determine that the negativity is coming from the outside, then it's important to put value in those relationships and what are those contributing to you. It may sound to some people it may sound a little selfish, a little, I guess selfish, yeah, mean. People hang on to loyalty a lot. And I've always said that loyalty works both ways, that if I'm a loyal friend to you, supporting you, then I should receive the same. And at the moment that does not happen, then I need to put a value on that relationship.
Yeah.
So it goes against a lot what we're taught, but
Absolutely.
only changing those lessons or those teachings are we going to evolve ourselves, correct?
Yeah, exactly. It's we're taught a lot. When you're from age 0 to age 8, even going into the teens, you're extremely impressionable, and you're taught so much, and some of it is very useful, and most of it is not. And it's up to the individual to take the responsibility to figure out what's working and what's not, to help them become a better person. More often than not, my clients are people pleasers, and they want to, they're either people pleasers or they overshare. And what I teach them, and it's always a shock, and I do this on purpose, I say, well, we got to teach you to be more narcissistic. We got to teach you to be more self-absorbed. Because, again, while those two terms in and of themselves are negative, here's the spectrum of, this is negativity, self-absorption, and this is positive, this is where they are at.
Right.
It's so far away, and they're not even thinking of themselves. They're thinking so much of the other people and what other people think of them, and just all this other stuff. It's like they need to start thinking of them before they can move forward and become better people.
Yeah. So there's a correct way of putting yourself at the top of the list. And I will say this for myself. I had to learn how to do that for me. Like when I was going through cancer, there was no energy to share with other people. I had to think about myself and surviving. So that's when I learned, it's like, hey, I gotta love myself first before I can share those other people. And then once I was better, then I was able to share that. But really think about where you are. I know some of you caught the second part, and if you were on the first part and come here, don't worry, I'm going to combine these and put this out there as a one whole video. We just had a couple of little technical difficulties.
Sure. Yeah.
But where can people find you?
So the website's lifecoachtommy.com. I'm starting a vlog also. It's basically what is Tommy ? On YouTube. I'm putting some of those videos on Life Coach Tommy website. But yeah, that's where you'll find the philosophy, the sociology, all that stuff that I go off on.
Cool.
So.
And you are you are open for more clients right now?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So if you are looking for a change in your life and you don't know exactly where to start, as a lot of us do, get a hold of Life Coach Tommy. We'll put the information on there. We'll be back to do more, I hope.
Yeah.
If you guys enjoy these, please let us know, and we'll come back along with his personal blog. I will invite him to come over to Put It Together podcast and do some more stuff on here for you guys. For now, I want to thank Tommy. Thank you, sir, for being here. Thank you guys for joining us. Pardon us for the technical difficulties, but live TV. For now, this is Daniel Garza with Put It Together, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye, guys.